to Sword and Board. I'm Luke.
I'm Lars.
And this is two guys talking about every fantasy movie ever made. Lars, it has been a while since we've done this. How have you been?
I've been really good, Lucas. It has been a while. I don't remember the last one that we did. Do you?
I want to say that was last year, honestly. I know we've recorded for Board James Board a couple of times, but I want to say the last time we did fantasy was last year. It's been a while.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have slacked off.
Very much so.
It's it's been things have been good. We're going camping or at some little tiny cabins this weekend.
Cool.
Gonna go see some waterfalls. It's at this really cool mountain town called Brevard. We actually went there around Halloween time last year, and it has this like perfect spooky vibe, like this like small town spooky where Mike Myers is just gonna jump out of the bushes, but it's not like Rob Zombie gross horror. It's like quaint horror.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a perfect time of year to go out there because Halloween is my favorite holiday, and I was excited when one, we got to do this again finally, and two, when you agreed to do some what should have been spooky movies, but weren't. Not so much. But I'm interested to hear what you had to say because I was actually surprised. I had seen one of them before. I had not seen the other, and I was surprised by both watching them again.
I had seen both of them before, and we'll get to them in a second.
Yeah. How have you been?
I've been okay. This is my favorite time of year. I love fall, October. We get into the colder days of the year. Get to watch all my favorite stuff. What's your one Halloween fall thing you have to watch every year?
One Halloween fall thing.
If you have to watch one Halloween thing, what is it?
I have to watch The Thing.
Nice.
The Thing's my favorite horror movie. It's one of my favorite movies. Now that we have, with the kids, though, I think Hocus Pocus is high on that list now.
Hocus Pocus is pretty good. Was not a fan of the sequel for a variety of reasons. The Thing, I have realized, is an incredible movie that I get no enjoyment out of watching anymore, except for when I get to introduce someone to it who has never seen it before.
Okay.
And then I spend the entire time looking at their face, waiting for the dog's face to the skin to peel off.
Right, or when with the paddles to break open into the chest. And,
exactly.
Yeah.
That is the best part of that movie now.
I can get that. I still think it's John Carpenter's best movie.
Mm-hmm. It's fantastic.
Now I have come to appreciate, and I love some of his other movies. I could probably watch more, like Big Trouble in Little China. I can maybe watch anytime year round.
Mm-hmm.
I really like They Live. I think that's just a fun movie.
Mm-hmm.
But for Halloween, for me. Yeah, The Thing has become like I gotta watch that one.
I get it.
It's a good spooky monster movie. How about you?
Not Halloween, but fall. Every fall for the past 5 years now, Victoria and I have watched this show called Over the Garden Wall.
They just put it back on somewhere.
Yep. Have you ever seen it?
I have not.
Okay, it's amazing. It's perfect. It is this wonderful piece of the genre I call Harvest Gothic, and that makes perfect sense once you watch it. But the show is about two brothers lost in the woods.
Okay.
And it's this wonderful slice of weird Americana is the only way to describe it. And we watch it every fall because it is the perfect introduction to fall.
I like it.
Yep.
I'll have to check that one out.
And it's perfectly kid friendly as well.
Nice. We watched Goosebumps, the Jack Black movie.
How is that?
With the kids. It's fine. It's Jack Black, which he's goofy and fun.
Yep, he is.
Right. He plays Jack Black in everything, and if you don't like that, then you're not going to like this. If you think that he is a fun, goofy oddball, then you'll love it. And fortunately, we think that he's a fun, goofy oddball.
He is the best part of the Mario movie. He is absolutely the best part. Yeah, hands down the best part of the Mario movie.
Yep.
So we got two Dracula movies today.
We do.
Wildly different in tone.
Wildly different. Have you read the book?
I read. We talked about this a while back, but with Dad on one episode, I read Dracula Daily
That's right.
last year. I think it was.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never actually sat down and read the book itself, but I did read Dracula Daily, which is interesting. I haven't read the actual book. I should probably do that sometime, but
because I'm just about to start the audiobook
nice
of it.
Nice.
Just to give that one a try.
I will say that prose literature is kind of difficult for me for a variety of reasons lately, so I don't know if I'll be able to get to it, but actually part of our Halloween decorations is a copy of Dracula. We just have that out. Yep. So one is way more fantasy than the other, and one I just wanted an excuse to watch again. Mm-hmm. So Dracula Untold,
2014, I think.
Yep. I remember watching the trailers for this and thinking, this looks pretty rad. He's got Castlevania powers.
Uh-huh.
First attempt to do like a shared... another attempt, let me rephrase that. Another attempt to do like a shared Universal Monsters extended cinematic universe thing. Mm-hmm. Not a great movie. Kind of fun at times.
I agree. So, yeah, let's get into it. So, Dracula Untold, it tells the story of basically Vlad the Impaler. Mm-hmm. And, it is this, he's Count Dracula, and it's basically how he becomes a vampire.
Right.
And in doing so, makes him a more sympathetic figure. You kind of get his motivations, which usually I don't like those types of stories. Like, I don't care how Hannibal Lecter became Hannibal Lecter. Just show me Hannibal Lecter. I don't need to know, like, the backstory of him. I don't really
you don't
care
need
to know how Darth Vader became Darth Vader. Just show me Darth Vader.
You literally beat me to it. You literally beat me to it.
I don't care about that. But with a story like Dracula, where really, how else do you redo this? How do you make another Dracula movie? Everybody from Jack Palance to Christopher Lee has played Dracula.
Right. I think more...
Leslie Nielsen played Dracula.
I think there are more Dracula adaptations than any other fictional character. I remember reading that somewhere.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yep.
So how do you redo it? And I think both of these movies, that's the most interesting thing about the movies, is that they kind of had a fresh take on the story. Mm-hmm. Like this is a way to do it. Sometimes they're a success and sometimes they're not, but at least it's a different attempt, right?
Right.
And this one was much more of the grand fantasy epic. That's how we're going to tell this story. It's not really a horror movie at all. It's more of it's like Gladiator with vampire powers.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's odd. It's very disjointed. I feel weird with Dominic Cooper playing
a Turk.
Yeah, that's very weird. That whole thing is weird, but there's like some cool bits with like him controlling bats is really cool, and him trying to learn how to use his powers is interesting.
It had a very much a superhero origin story.
Well, yeah,
moments in that, right? Like he's learning to use the powers and all that.
Yeah, and it's fine. Like I didn't particularly hate it.
I liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to.
Yeah, that's a good way to
be honest.
it.
I thought I was going to be like one of these kinds of movies, and I actually kind of was having lots of fun with it. Really, one of the things that was a death knell for me was the very last scene. So
really,
oh god. So Dracula goes. He's basically what we learn is that he didn't want to be a vampire. He did it to save the people of Transylvania. That the Turkish people or the Turkish leader was coming to basically take all of the young men in the country and force them into being in the army, thereby, kind of sentencing them all to die almost.
Yep.
And Dracula finds out about this legend of, was that Caligula?
I don't know. Like the Charles Dance?
I thought they said it was Caligula.
It might have been, but I didn't catch that. I think he's officially just listed as the Master Vampire in the credits. But they could have.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know.
So there's this thing in the mountains that is killing Turks.
Mm-hmm.
Vlad doesn't know who it is, but he's like, well, if it's killing Turks, then I need to get it on my side. And
Mm-hmm.
it comes to find out that is a vampire, and the vampire basically makes him a deal that, hey, I'm gonna bite you, and if you don't suck somebody's blood, for 3 days, then this will just go away.
Right.
But in the interim, you'll have vampire powers, and he uses that to like kill everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But, hilarity ensues. His wife dies, and his wife is the one that like encourages him to feed from her so he can go save their son. There's all this stuff. Basically, he ends up sacrificing himself and becomes a full-fledged vampire. Interesting.
Yes.
And then it cuts to modern day London, where he now sees basically like a reincarnation of his dead wife, who's now named Mina, which is Mina from the Dracula story. And there's Charles Dance basically playing the Samuel L. Jackson part of Nick Fury, and he like, let the games begin, and like it ends on like sequel bait. And I just didn't like that at all. And it just was like, ugh.
I didn't get I get the not wanting the sequel bait. I actually kind of dug it, but I wasn't getting that he was the Nick Fury thing. I was getting that he was going to be the future villain. That being said, I can understand the distaste. I thought that was the most interesting part of the movie, because otherwise, like, you've got some cheesy special effects. That fight scene he has in the tent where he's throwing silver at him because vampires are weak to silver, in addition to stakes and stuff. That's cool. Like, that was an interesting visual effect. And when he's trying to stake him in the heart, when he's trying to stake him and the armor is literally giving away so it can kill him, that's that's cool. But it kind of was just, it was fine. Like, the best way for me to describe it was fine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not defending it as this great film. I'm saying that it was fine until that last little bit. And it's like, I understand that at this point, Marvel was already starting, right? And they were like, oh, we got to get us some of those
cinematic universes.
Yeah. And it just goes to show it's another foretelling of like how Marvel's just ruined a lot of things about movies. That it's just, it's funny for me to say that, because like when the first 10 years of the Avengers was going on, I was in heaven.
Yeah.
Because that was like, oh my gosh, they're making a Marvel comic book movie. Like, because all of these other characters are in it. That's what would happen in a Marvel comic. It'd be, yeah, you're reading about the Fantastic Four, but then for some reason Daredevil shows up.
Right. And it was really cool to see that initially. Like,
yeah,
I remember being like talking about it with friends. It was a really cool thing, and then it just, I hate the phrase superhero fatigue, because I don't actually care. It's not, I want to see more superhero movies. I want to see good superhero movies. It's not necessarily it's not that I don't want to see a superhero movie. I just want to see a good one. And so I want to see different things. That was like, my favorite of the Marvel movies is Thor Ragnarok, because it's so different than everything else. I think it's wonderful.
Right. Or like I want to see more things like Logan. Thought Logan was an amazing movie.
I was a little let down. But I agree with you. I agree with you. I want to see different things. Yeah.
Different kinds of, like, you don't have to tell the same story over and over again. You could do something different. But anyway, I digress. I thought that Luke Evans, I don't know why he hasn't like made it more.
Because I think he's kind of private with his life, and he's also he is a good, solid, dependable actor cut from the same cloth as James Purfoy. And I think he's in that orbit.
Solomon Kane.
Yep, he's in that orbit of actor who you need a good, dependable actor, but I don't think he's gonna put butts in seats.
Right, that's fair.
And speaking of something like that, because I talked about this with a friend of mine, there's a couple actors in our next movie. There's one in particular that I don't understand why he didn't have a bigger role. The 1992 masterpiece Bram Stoker's Dracula by Francis Ford Coppola is certainly a movie.
It is a movie. It is a movie. I'm really interested to hear what you have to say about this one.
Okay.
'Cause I've got my thoughts.
Bram Stoker's Dracula is the perfect mix of incredibly boring, gorgeous to look at, super compelling, and excruciatingly horny.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
That
I would agree with all that.
It's a technical marvel. Everything that's on screen, save for that blue fire, was done in camera. There's no post-production except for the blue fire.
Which is really impressive.
Yeah, like the eyes you see in the
If you know what that is.
Yes, I
it's
agree.
Impressive.
It is super impressive. It's weird. We've talked before about how sometimes you watch a movie and an actor thinks they're in a different film. Raul Julia in Street Fighter is clearly in a different movie than everyone else.
I kind of want to see the movie that Raul Julia was in, by the way.
Me too. I love Street Fighter. I agree wholeheartedly with you. Every single person in Bram Stoker's Dracula is in a different movie. Every single one of them.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
There's it is buck wild that they got Keanu Reeves to try and do to just work his heart out at a terrible English accent. He is trying really hard. Same with Winona Ryder. She does a better job.
Not by much.
Yeah, I know.
To be honest, I think that this movie gets a lot of bad rap for Keanu, and rightly so. Yep. I think Keanu Reeves he seems like he is a wonderful human being. Like maybe one of the best of us. But he has limited range. And that's fine, and I think that he would fully admit that. This really wasn't in his wheelhouse. No, and again, that's fine. It's so apparent when two of the greatest actors, Anthony Hopkins and Gary Oldman, are in a scene with him. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, that's not the same. There's somebody's acting and somebody's not acting in these scenes. But it's also, I would say that it's every other supporting character. Like, Cary Elwes, loved him in Princess Bride. He's not the greatest actor. And again, when he's in scenes with Anthony Hopkins, it's very apparent that he's not the greatest of actors.
Nope. Anthony Hopkins, what is he watching? What does he think he is in? Because he is on cloud nine the entire time. It's wonderful to watch him on screen. Tom Waits is there.
So good. Tom Waits is going nuts. Going absolutely nuts.
Billy Campbell, the guy who plays Quincy Morris. He does a really good job. Yep, the Rocketeer. The outrageous O'Connor.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
One of the worst episodes of TNG. At the same time, we kind of love it. I don't understand how...
I don't like rewatching that one.
I don't understand why he didn't have a bigger career, because he's got, good actor, handsome, charismatic. He seems like he would have been Hollywood leading man, and he just never didn't seem like he had much of a career. What I can remember, I watched this last night and finished it this morning. At 3 separate times, I was in the other bedroom and Victoria was doing something in the other room. At 3 separate times, I heard her yelling at me, "Are you watching porn?" Like, nope, I'm just watching a woman getting ghost fucked.
Yeah. It's definitely they dial up that a lot in this movie. Mm-hmm. And again, I feel like it's always been there. Absolutely. In any adaptation of Dracula, and like it is an inherently a very kind of sexual story. Mm-hmm. But I haven't seen one that was so blatant.
No,
with it,
particularly for the time period too. It seems like if we were going to tart it up in a Dracula movie, we would be doing that now, or in the 70s at least. It's in a weird period that it didn't seem like it would be made. It's got this strange style to it. Everything looks a little alien. Like, even well before I had ever seen this movie, I remember Dracula's armor, where it looks like just exposed, it looks like exposed muscle. It's weird.
It's like somebody that never saw a Dracula movie, or like ever knew anything about Dracula, was tasked to like design it.
That is literally what happened. It was a Japanese costume designer who knew nothing about the Dracula story and did all the costuming. Which the costuming in this is fantastic. It's beautiful. It's got such a weird pacing that I remember, like, I'm kind of bored, and then something bananas happens.
Yeah.
This is easily the best Dracula movie I've ever seen. Like, I actually just watched the Bela Lugosi a couple of nights ago as well. And it's a great piece of cinema fiction, like cinema history, but it's slow and weirdly paced and seems about 2 hours longer than its hour and 15-minute runtime.
Interesting. Okay. I haven't seen that one either.
It's super short, and I was checking my watch the whole time.
And this one all right. So here's my thinking, and it's probably going to be a hot take, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Mom, the one person that listens to this. So you're right that it's visually very interesting. As far as like a story, it meanders quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in that way, it probably is very faithful to the book. The music is incredible. So it's like all the things that I normally don't like. I'm really just concerned with like the story and the acting.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm watching a movie, and if those two things are good, then I'm good. And if the other things are there, then that's just kind of extras. In this, the acting isn't great except for the two performances I mentioned. Gary Oldman, who I think is fantastic. Anthony Hopkins. And the story is kind of all over the place. So actually the things that I normally think are just kind of extras, that's actually what sells the movie for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like the costumes and the look of it and the special effects, like that's enough to get by for me with this movie.
Right.
I think Francis Ford Coppola is an overrated director.
I can understand that. He made The Godfather, and
he made The Godfather and 2 and The Conversation and Apocalypse Now. Like, holy cow, those are incredible. I obviously those are. I just named 4 of the greatest movies ever made.
Mm-hmm.
And he hasn't done much more than that afterwards.
Nope.
And it sounds silly to say that, like, oh, he hasn't done anything after that. Well, yeah, he made 4 of the great, like, bam, 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 bam. Like, and he wrote Patton. Like, also, just, also he wrote Patton. No big deal.
What?
Yeah, he won an Oscar for that.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah. Again, it sounds silly for me to say, like, oh, he hasn't done anything lately. Well,
he doesn't have to.
He doesn't have to. But everything that I've seen that he has made after that,
has been a marked drop in his it kind of
quality.
It kind of apes the pattern of Brando, which is kind of funny because Brando had genius movies, and then The Island of Dr. Moreau, which I kind of love, honestly. It's terrible, but I kind of love it. It's just, this is such a... I remember loving the hell out of this when I saw it 20 years ago. And then I watched it 10 years ago and like, oh yeah, this is so good. And then now I'm like, I don't necessarily see the seams, but what's fascinating, like the most interesting thing to me about this is you've got Bela Lugosi, Dracula, who defines Dracula basically. And this is right at its heels now. Like, you can either go one of two paths to make your Dracula movie. You can either do Bela Lugosi, blah, blah, or you can have weird skittering up the walls in a bright red vest, a bright red nightgown, Dracula. And that's about it. Like, everything I've seen is like they're trying not to do this movie now, if that makes sense.
Or actually, I would say that you don't get Untold without this movie.
Absolutely.
Because this movie, like, it does paint Dracula as a sympathetic figure as well.
Mm-hmm.
If Untold's new version of Dracula was a fantasy epic, Bram Stoker's Dracula is, hey, let's tell it as a love story.
Right.
Let's make it a love story. And that's pretty compelling.
Yeah, the tagline of the movie is "Love Never Dies." Like, that's they define that as the through line of the whole movie. If I recall, this is like the first time that they did the Mina. I could be wrong. Reminds him of his dead wife, kind of thing.
I think it was in like one of the Hammer movies. Well, I mean, one of the like obscure ones. Like it might have been in like something like that. I mean, it definitely wasn't in the book.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I've read, is, or at least of the story, is that part. This make like Dracula is not a love story by any means.
Right.
Like the book isn't. And then this went there with it, which, hey, you got to do something different. You don't want to do something stale, and this definitely wasn't stale.
No, it's
by
kind
any
of bananas.
Yeah, it is kind of bananas. I mean, the scene with Jonathan, with Keanu, who's playing Jonathan Harker, and the wives.
Yep.
And just
Um,
like, first of all, I mean, it's very exploitation era kind of feeling. But then when Dracula catches them, and like it's like he's strobe affecting, but there's no strobe lights going on. It's just him moving weird.
I think they shot
Very
him
unsettling.
backwards. I think they reversed the footage.
Ah.
Because I know they do that with the wives specifically. They back up and the footage is reversed. That's why it doesn't look right.
A lot of the movies like that, which I think adds to it
Mm-hmm.
tremendously because it's like it makes it feel like very dreamlike and strange, and it makes you feel like maybe you got bit and you're a few quarts low and you're in a daze.
Right.
It definitely feels very otherworldly, which it's funny. I think I know that you're not in this camp, but whenever I hear somebody say like, oh, it's all practical effects, I can hear you saying, so what, in my head,
Yep.
because I feel like you don't care about that kind of stuff.
It's not that I don't care. It's that it's different. I don't. Practical effects aren't inherently better. That is my
Correct.
stance, and that's why I'm so fascinated by this because I can look at almost a pure practical effect film, and I can appreciate the artistry involved in this. Like there's that scene with the obviously model train going across the background, casting its shadow on the book. Well, that's because they built a giant fucking book and had a giant spotlight casting the shadow over the train on the book. It's an interesting visual effect.
In a way that these actually hold up because you don't get like weird like early 90s era CGI.
Mm-hmm.
These still like they look weird, but they hold up in a way that wouldn't have happened if they tried to use computer generated effects of the day. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Absolutely. It's just an interesting artifact is the best way to describe this movie. And I spent a while trying to like it's weird. This is the first time in forever that I haven't been able to find it on Netflix or anything. Like I had to
Hmm.
it only popped onto Pluto on Sunday. Like
Oh wow.
it was nowhere to be found on the internet until Sunday. I was able to catch up on it finally. It just it's such a strange thing that I always forget exists and then I see it recommended to me. I really enjoyed this and I also kind of hated it at the same time.
Go on.
No, it's like it is this weird piece of film that I don't understand how it got made. I totally understand why it was a box office sensation at the time.
Yeah, it made a lot of money. I mean, it was a success, right?
Yeah. It spawned like there was the Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and Mary Riley afterwards, which were like to
Mm-hmm.
cash in on that. And it's just inexplicable is a great way for me to describe it, I think. Is that at the end of the day, there is a movie that, as I said, was super boring at times and yet I couldn't look away. And honestly, like it'd be hard to do better than that because I there are some incredible films out there like The King's Speech, for example. That's a really good movie. Kind of boring.
Mm-hmm.
It's compelling, but it's boring. This is over the top, bloody, super like sexually charged piece of film that I want to watch again next year. I don't know if I'm going to watch it again before that.
Yeah, this would be a how and as a horror movie, it is not scary,
Nope.
but it's atmospheric and weird.
There's a
So not
cowboy,
everything. There's a cowboy
which is just
on a steel horse he
good
rides.
vibes.
Yeah, there's a cowboy. I don't
You're
know,
here.
like the green fog coming in, and it's just like yeah, there's just a lot of like good, creepy, spooky, Halloweeny vibes,
Yes.
which make it okay to put in the rotation, at least for me. Like, this could be a good Halloween movie. I don't think it's a movie I would watch any other time of the year.
No, absolutely not. It's there are horror movies I can watch at any time of the year, and there are horror movies that I watch around Halloween, and this is definitely a Halloween one.
Right. But it's funny, I'm going to be the same way about it in that unless someone recommends it to me, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
forget about it. I'm not going to and like it was when you mentioned doing it for this tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Oh yeah, That one. I watched it last year with Elizabeth.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Nice.
And I was like, oh yeah, okay. I hadn't thought about it since. So, yeah.
Since we're kind of tangentially related to it, Dracula Dead and Loving It, not Mel Brooks' best work. It's
Oh
fine.
no.
It's fine. It's got some good gags, but since we're thinking about it,
Young Frankenstein, it is not.
no. You want to talk about directors with incredible pedigrees? Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles the same year.
Same year.
Just godlike.
Well, it's Dolly Parton writing Jolene and I Will Always Love You in the same day.
Right. Just
Okay.
broken.
Oh, okay.
Leave something
Well,
for
I
the
guess-
rest of us.
I guess that's what I did today. So, like, what did you do today? Well, nothing like that. So, I guess and kind of going off of Dracula stuff, I watched the first 2 of 3 episodes of the BBC show that they made. It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Is it?
It's really good. They do, yeah. I would highly encourage you watch that one.
I'll take a look at that.
That was solid. It's Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss, so it's the folks that did Sherlock,
Yes. Cool.
which I don't know your feelings of Sherlock. I thought it was really good.
I'm all over the place on Sherlock at times. It really depends on what I am, how I'm feeling.
It depends on it depends on
Yes.
the episode, really. Some of them are great, and then some of them are like, okay.
So, Bram Stoker's Dracula, way better than Dracula Untold. Gonna go out on a limb there.
You're correct there. That was the better of the 2.
I think if I had to pick a spot, I would say that Dracula Untold would be slayed by Van Helsing.
You think that Van Helsing would be above, so it's going to be
Yes.
in between Legend and Van Helsing?
Yes.
I can get behind that.
All right. And where would you say Bram Stoker's Dracula would fit? If you had to pick.
I'm just scrolling up. It's better than The Last Witch Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I really like Sword in the Stone. It's not going to be it's not going to be like a high.
No.
If I'm going to be honest, this is definitely not
If I had
Highlander, Stardust, Excalibur.
Got it.
None of those. We're down farther.
I would say I'm gonna throw out a thought because I just looked at it. For 90s adaptations of classic stories.
Are you looking at Robin Hood?
Yeah, I'm looking at Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Right there.
I agree. I think it splits the difference. I think it's in between Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and the new Robin Hood.
I would go with that. Cool.
Yeah, I would. Thank you for that. I would take Kevin Costner over this movie.
Speaking of, that fucking tree got cut down. I'm still mad about that. Oh.
Did they say why?
No, there's still there's a bunch of theories, and I think they've arrested a couple people for it.
What Lucas is referring to is that there's a tree in Prince of Thieves. It starts in. He's not in Jerusalem, is he? I forget what.
No,
he's off fighting the Crusades.
No, that's in England. In the movie.
No, I'm saying that in the very beginning, he's in the prison and then he escapes and he gets back to England. And when he's in England, there's this field and there's this. I mean, it's just this beautiful open field and there's this tree that's splitting a wall. And it's just it's funny because Lucas sent me a picture of it. I knew exactly just from that one image where that movie was from.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh yeah, they cut that down." It's like, what?
Yeah.
How do you cut that down?
Mm-hmm. No, and they've arrested a couple of people. No one seems to know yet, but it does look like apparently the stump is healthy, and that the tree could grow back from the stump somehow.
The only worse tree story I've heard is when the fanatical, I think they're Bama fans.
Yeah, who poisoned the trees in Auburn? Yeah, I heard that
was
too.
awful.
So
when are they going to make the movie about the tree killers?
I don't know.
That's the horny movie I want to see. Ugh. Too many splinters.
Yeah.
Lucas, where can people find us?
We can be found at swordandboard.podbean.com, on Podbean, the app, on Stitcher, on Spotify, and anything else that we really have. road trip. And it's incredibly important. You can find her at Wise Wheel on Twitter.
And our artwork is done by the wonderful Wes Forbes. His band, The Menders, is tearing it up all throughout the Southeast. Go check them out if you get a chance.
Cool. I promise we will be back sooner than we.
Yes, we will be back much sooner. I'd love to be back, and we need to get to another horror movie before the movie's out, the month's out.
Yeah, I would like to do that. We'll see what we can do. Everyone have a good night.
All right. Have a good one.